I'm gonna crash this thing, yes. Robin is racing, I don't know.
And I got this old F-bumper bumpy that
You have to get it on top of your head.
spring, probably just gonna leave them yellow, you know? It's race.
Nascar stuff. I mean, it's spin pretty damn nice thing.
Uh-oh, the whole front suspension is blown apart. What the fuck was going on here?
There you go.
These are the splines. These are the splines.
Or if we ever get it to Talladega Daytona, I mean, trust me in that. If I get the money and can make that happen, I'll do that. Welcome to the first rendition of wrenching in this thing. So today's episode, if you guys haven't seen yet, I bought a 1971 Dodge Charger factory RT 440 car, but that's long gone, you know what I mean? No engine, no transmission, the whole front frame is Nascar and stuff now, so that doesn't really matter. Still kind of cool to say you got a 440 RT, but who cares, you know? I don't. So this car is of course an Nascar built like in the 80s and stuff, and has all kind of like disc brake parts, a 9-inch full floater, roll cage, it's topped, it's got a Grand National Nascar front frame with like Holman Moody control arms, you know, different stuff like that. We got all kinds of stuff to get into, a Tilton pedal box. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the whole front end off. We're gonna lift this thing up as high off the ground as possible on some jack stands and stuff. So we got the car emptied out and the whole front end also taken off. That was a little bit of task. Also getting the stuff up there. Let me tell you, a giant B-body fender and the door is not real that light when you have to get it on top of your head. So the first thing I want to do right now is this tube right here. First of all, I don't know why they cut this. Probably because they were thinking about doing some rat mount thing. Anywho, we got the extra pipe with us that are plenty long. Probably just gonna build in here. And I had some ideas on how to do this, because actually I kind of like the idea about having, let's say, like 2 plates here built in out of like old header flanges or something. So you just had like 3 bolts here on the side, and then you can take the pipe out. And then you would have like free access for like radiator. Let's say you're doing stuff on the front of the engine, you can remove the radiator and the front of the car with maybe like 4 bolts or whatever, and then you can literally like get access to the whole thing and like pull the engine out this way too, instead of up and over. And it would make a lot of sense to have this bar removable. I was kind of liking the idea of like using old like racing header flanges or whatever, because that's like nice thick material. It's already have like a nice pre-drilled shape with bolt holes and everything, and it would just be easy. And I kind of like the idea of like using old speed parts, you know what I mean? Like kind of in the spirit of the car, because let me tell you, if you take a look at like 70s NASCARs and stuff, they are made really crude, okay? Like booger wells, shitty seat mounts, guys flying out of the cars. I mean, come on, you know? You can find a clip out there with Richard Petty flying out of the window of a Superbird, so.
Going to crash on the home stretch, a car upside down.
And that's
a
Richard
blue
Petty.
car, it is Richard Petty.
So I found these plates that I have already. I'm not gonna use them for anything. Don't really remember what they were for, but gotta cut the nut off. There's 2 tack welds anyway. Then we got a perfect square plate. Got 2 of those. We need 4. And I got this old F-bumper bumpy that. F-bumper bumpy. Did I just say that? F-body bumper. That I'm just gonna cut 2 more plates out of. Then we have 4 of these like square plates with nice rounded edges. And then I'm gonna do 4 holes. And then through bolts and nuts. And then we're gonna weld these plates, of course, to the ends of those bars. And then the end of the other bar. So there it is. If you don't got it or can't buy it, you gotta make it. There you go. Just gonna cut this nut off, and then of course I'm gonna grind the zinc coating off these plates too, so you can actually weld them. So the bars in and fully welded. Got the 4 tabs of plates here at the ends. Welded that to the bars here to the car. 4 bolt holes, 8 mils, and then I'm just gonna buy some new hardware for it, and we can paint and whatnot. Well, it's turned out okay. I'm starting to get a hang of it. Also, the welder that I have right now has some very thick thread in it or whatever. I believe I probably need some thinner thread, because the thread that's in it right now is for welding stuff like this, you know, like big iron beams and stuff. So, but it turned out pretty decent. This is probably the best part of it. There are some that are a little worse, but it's okay. It's decent. The ones on this side had a little more splatter to it. Also, this side had a little more splatter to it, but that's also because I think these plates that I used here, the one that I made myself, seemed like it was dirty metal or whatever. Where the brand new plates here that I took the zinc coating off welded much nicer, I guess, like less splatter or whatever. So I don't know, some material stuff going on there. I mean, a pro. So what we're gonna do right now is shoot some primer over it real quick so it doesn't rust, you know, just like prevent it. At some point in time of this car, the whole thing is gonna get some kind of painted. I'm just not sure yet, like what color and what. We'll figure that out. So what I'm gonna do now is prime that real quick, and then after that, wheels off, and then I'm gonna drop the suspension, because the suspension is welded right now, so it doesn't move. Like, they just welded in a tab instead of the spring, so we could get it on the truck and stuff like that. So I'm gonna start to like remove that, sag out the suspensions, you know, fully relaxed position, try and maybe get the springs in this thing, or, you know, see how that works out. I don't know. So what I'm gonna do right now is remove the wheel, and by the way, Nascar stuff, you gotta have a 1-inch deep socket impact for it. I didn't have that, so I have to order that. And these really like beefy Nascar steel wheels here that are like fully welded are still somehow lighter than my fiberwood steel wheels. I don't know how that works, but so the suspension is like fully dropped right now, and something I don't get or understand, if you will, is the angle of the ball joint. As you can see, it's already built in all the angle in the control arm, which I don't really get. If you see here on the other side, where I assumed before with the welded tabs down there that they welded in like proper right height order, the angle is still ridiculous, and the control arm is actually starting to, you know, go upwards, if you will, like from its center line. Not really sure what's going on there. These A-arms that I have right here have this type of shaft in here with like a bend in them. As you can see there, they go down, yonder, up. And then also the arm itself is pretty much just, yeah, an A-arm. Where over here, I actually got some other control arms, and these control arms, let me just remove that real quick. These control arms right here, rounded or whatever, the angle is still the same, and the shaft here is just straight instead. And I thought maybe on the other control arms, like, oh, it's maybe just flipped upside down, but the grease or like inserts or whatever here are pointed this way for a reason, I guess, right? So you can get access to them, which indicate that it's supposed to be like that. But I don't really get it. In my world, I would flip-flop this around, and you know, we might play around with that once the car is driving on all that. So if we just gonna turn the wheel, then you can maybe see in here behind the spindle, this is a mount for, I don't know, an original Ford sway bar or something. I'm not really sure that we're gonna need that mount, but as you can see, they just welded like a tab or exhaust mount or something to the whole coilover thingy here. So I'm just gonna cut that off right now. I checked some other photos on Google on like old NASCARs and stuff, and usually they cut like a big opening here in the side so you can pull the spring in and out and stuff. So might gonna look into that, but first of all, just gonna cut this off and see what happens. Hot day! That definitely dropped, huh? Just a tiny bit. So here's your old generic NASCAR springs. Not much to it. Like every other race, not like every other race car, but like every other American car, I guess. Maybe we can just like thread it up in there. Yeah, I mean, that'll work. There you go. I mean, if that's the only thing you gotta do every time you have to change the spring, and I say every time, like I'm gonna do this every day, you know, let it be. That's pretty easy.
So I just noticed something on these wedge adjuster things or whatever. It goes right here on top of your spring, and that gets installed up in there. Then on the other side, this thing, like this, and apparently I have to get a bolt that goes through here. So I guess I'm just gonna try to thread this thing up in here. And you can actually probably just put a tool up in there. You can definitely put in a lot of preload. That's almost like 4 inches, 5 inches of travel right there. So, and one thing I'm also gonna do is take this apart, because I do believe we still gotta put seals in these wheel bearings. There's wheel bearings in, but there's no grease and no seals. So, I mean, it's spin pretty damn nice, dang.
Uh-oh, the whole front suspension is blown apart. What the boggle is going on here?
So, of course, you know, when you get a project that somebody else has been building and you get things like cardboard boxes and parts are missing, and he pretty much put the whole suspension on like loose, you know, like nothing is like installed or alignment or anything like that. Already found out, yeah, as we talked about, that probably the control arms are wrong for this application. That's one thing. Second thing is we need one tie rod.
Oh, here we just got a piece of metal with a double knotted bolt through and stuff like that, so that's kind of weird. Also, one other thing, the spindle, right? Pretty cool. It's adjustable. It got 2 like mounting holes for the tie rods or whatever, so you get like more steering ratio, if you will. So instead of changing your whole steering box, you can just flop over a hole here and you know, short track, speedway kind of deal, you know. Some adjustability right there. And but one only weird thing is the front hole is bigger than the rear hole. That doesn't really make sense, unless if they drilled this hole up, and I don't know. Luckily, I have a part number on this part here, and it just bolts onto the spindle, so I can change the steering arm if it comes to that, I guess. All these products, or like parts on this thing, is SCP, which are stock car parts or whatever. That's a company or whatever that used to make them. I actually think you can still get them somewhere. I don't know, don't quote me that. One other thing, right? These like Holman Moody style lower control arms, they got a little bit confused in the mix-up over here, I guess. Because one thing, that right there, that's a shock mount, I'm pretty sure. So that should be on the rear side, or at least when you have front steer, you can't have a shock here. Because funny enough, this thing turns around, right? So I'm pretty sure this is actually a right control arm. And the one over there is the left, so we have to like flip-flop those, change sides on those. And then of course also here in the rear, it has this tab right here, which I'm pretty certain is for a sway bar mount. I'm pretty damn sure it is for a sway bar mount. And of course the sway bar mount can't really go through the spindle here, because again, we got front steer in this frame right now. So I think I'm gonna flip-flop the lower control arms around, so we get this arm over there. Gotta do that on a later date. Don't need to do that right now. I gotta get all the suspension off at one point anyway and get it sandblasted and powder coated black and all nice. Spring, probably just gonna leave them yellow, you know? It's race. And then another thing, the whole bearing stuff set up, because the guy mentioned that it still needed inner wheel seals, right? For the bearings and the hubs and all that sort of. So I started taking all that apart, you know, taking the disc brake off, which is by the way pretty cool, you know. It's bolted together with these like nice Allen bolts where they're all already like drilled holes in, so you can use like safety wire and stuff, you know, race car stuff. I find out all this stuff like really interesting and cool, because I haven't seen it before. This is my first proper race car parts that I'm dealing with. Also, the pin bolts or the wheel bolts or wheel studs or whatever in the hub down here, they all have small pin bolts that go through the big wheel stud or whatever to keep it in there. So not only are they pressed in with probably, I don't know how much force, and then they're also locked in with this like locking pin that screws into the side of it. Just cool stuff, you know what I mean? And also the bearings are really damn big compared to like a normal passenger car. The only thing I have to compare to the stock Roadrunner and my Firebird, which is like tiny wheel bearings up front, right? This is like the same size as a Dana 60 rear end in a F250 or something, you know. So that's pretty cool. But one thing I need is for the bearing caps, or wheel bearing caps or whatever here in the front, they screw into the hub, right? They pretty much screw in like this on the other side. And there needs to be some kind of gasket, I believe. I don't know, don't quote me that, but I would believe there needs to be some kind of gasket. So I have to find an O-ring or something small enough and also big enough in diameter to fit in this thing and put on. Maybe it's just machine fit. Maybe it's just supposed to seal up once those 3 bolts that goes in here are tightened up. I don't know. I mean, we can always try that, you know. That's easy to try, you know. Go for a ride. If stuff starts to like seep out and whatever, well, we need a seal or an O-ring or something. Then on the inside, on this side, there's supposed to be, of course, a wheel seal that presses in here and then seals against this part right here. It's not there. So you got your spindle, all that. That's cool. Race car stuff. Big old thick spindle compared to what I used to work on. Then you got the hub, right? Which is like any other hub, but one odd thing, it has spaces on the rear. It has these 2 spaces. I'm gonna take the other side apart at some point and see if it has the same spaces and same thickness and stuff, but anyway, 3 small Allen keys right here. Coarse thread, inch, of course. And then of course, last part is the disc brake, which again, everything just fits nicely on this thing. And to mount the brakes, again, you got 5 of these small Allen bolts that goes right in here, and then just like hold the disc in place. So as you can see, this bar here at the front or whatever, the one that holds in the strut bars that's coming here, and then you got the bolt holes here, and you're gonna access the bushings from underneath. Well, as you can see, at some point, I don't think actually at some point, I think they just welded it this lower. I think the guy said because he thought that this strut arm was too close to the tie rod arm, because I don't know, they probably thought that this thing doesn't move with this thing, that they would collide and hit each other. I don't know. It was something like that. I don't really remember what he said exactly, but I don't know if you saw the first pictures and like videos on this of this thing. I did not have the lower valence panel on, but if you saw the videos, this thing was sticking so much down that you would probably be able to see this thing even when that panel is on. But if you see the front part up here, that's like welded flush with the rest of the frame or whatever, so we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna throw a time-lapse up real quick. I'm gonna get a jack underneath the front of the frame right there, cut the tack welds that they made out there, and then we're pretty much just gonna move the thing up.
Oh, God.
There you go. It's loose. So I'm just gonna unbolt it real quick from the control arm so I can actually get into the end of the frame there. That's a little bit easier. And then we're gonna prep that surface right there, weld it, prime it, you know, make a little hole, also make a little access hole here maybe, so you can like blow in oil and all that stuff. And also blow out gravel and rocks. I'm gonna crash this thing, yes. Robin is racing, I don't know. Very custom edition actually. Whoop, there you go. And that's gonna drop too. There you go. Basically you're gonna have like a little bevel where you can lay your weld in. Does that make sense? It's always easier to weld something like this instead of something like this, you know? Instead of laying a bead here, then it's easier to lay a bead in here. I don't know if that made any sense, but I just I just figured out the few things that I have welded and fabricated that's way easier. So I'm gonna try to do that. Also the whole frame, guys, we'll have all suspension apart on this thing at some point. There's a lot of places that aren't like fully welded yet. Like this could get fully welded, that could get fully welded. There's a part that's not fully welded. I know there's 2 places back there behind the struts that are only like tack welded, you know. So something I just thought about, because this is actually plated, if you will, when I go to weld it on this end, I guess essentially the frame is gonna be plated anyway, so I'm not really sure if we have to do a plate and then weld that thing on top of. Of course that would get like some kind of extra stability to it and whatnot, but I don't really know if that's necessary. Let me think about that real quick, okay? Also up here we got a bunch of parts like springs for it, the correct yoke for the transmission or a rear end cooler, the rear end cooler part, the rear end cooler itself, or like power steam pump that mounts to the rear end. Control arms without bushing and stuff, you know, like proper race car stuff. Full aluminum Tilden pedal box, which has a master cylinder for rear and front brakes, and of course a balance bar so you can adjust brake bias. And then of course the other pedal is for the clutch, and of course we're gonna go manual. I mean, come on, if I went automatic, just shoot me, okay? That would be dumb. Got this old school unit right here, which is the cooler, or the blower motor for the rear end cooler. So that's gonna sit inside the car, pick up cool air, send through the cooler, cools the oil, cool oil goes into the rear end. Also splined ball bearing Nascar sway bar here. Also got some end links for it with the correct splines that we're gonna have to build at some point. These are the splines. These are the splines. Oh, not the splines. These are the splines. Yeah, very big splines. These are the axles for the 9-inch axle under the car there. So this is the axles themselves. I think they're 40 spline or something. Then we got some. I think I have like total of 6 brakes in total. There's like 4 in the cars and then 2 in the side or something. So we got like extra discs, and this is one from like a shop, like a showpiece or whatever that was hanging on a wall. So that's just for fun and giggles. Then over here we got the 9-inch with a. I think it was a torsion diff. I'm not really sure. Maybe not. I have to look into that. But it has some kind of limited slip going on thing, and it's just a 3.0 gearing. So that's some Talladega Speedway stuff right there. We're probably gonna have to change that out in the future, but we'll probably change it in the future or have another rear end laying around with like a 450 gearing or something instead. So we have this highway gearing if we want to go on a long road trip or some weird stuff. I don't know. Or if we ever get it to Talladega or Daytona. I mean, trust me in that. If I get the money and can make that happen, I'll do that. Also over here, a really cool, very beefy aluminum Nascar radiator from like the 90s, I think. I'm not really sure. The previous owner believed that this was Bill Elliott's old cooler. I have no idea. Some NASCAR guru or nerds probably gonna know better than me. But we got the sticker over here and a BER. I don't know if that's Bill Elliott, whatever the R stands for, and back up from Indy. So I guess that's Indianapolis, I would believe. You know, I don't know. Got all the correct like couplings and AN fittings and temp sensor, Hendrick Motorsports things. You know, that's really cool. It's definitely not gonna run cool or cold, whatever. Extra set of tires. Also got a 4th one. So yeah, a lot of cool parts, a lot of cool things. And then of course over there. That's the engine for it. I have a whole video build breakdown thing on this engine right here. I bought it completely like put together or whatever, but a really cool guy over in Sweden, TSS Speed Shop, and he pretty much owned this engine his entire life. It's been in a Challenger, it's been in a Roadrunner. I think in the Roadrunner with like 200 NOS shot or whatever, he did like a 964 ET. So it's quite beefy, even though it's still cast iron heads. They are 906 and they are, let's just say, heavily ported, okay? Can't get that much done in short time, but I'm gonna start to like grind more on this soon when we get some parts ordered. Probably gonna actually get the engine dynoed, maybe like start next year, you know, like in an engine dyno, so that's all like, we know that works, and then throw it into the car. And then of course we gotta figure out some engine mount stuff, oil pan stuff, trans tunnel, I don't know. And of course we gotta cut out the whole cowl section, because you already know we gotta go like NASCAR intake that goes through the hood and stuff like that. And then also we still gotta find a transmission. We gotta find a mopar 4-speed for it. And then like drive shaft, bell housing, clutch. You know, we still got a few things, right? We still gotta sacrifice some money on this project, but you know, we halfway there. Whoa. This was a video with a lot of talking, a lot of information and stuff like that, because this is such a new build, so I have so much to like, you know, get out there. But if you guys enjoy stuff like this and NASCAR nostalgia stuff and old school stuff like this, then don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Next video, that's gonna be way more wrenching, like welding, grinding, fitting things up. Where can we mount the radiator? How about mounts for like fenders and stuff? Where to and how, and you name it. We still gotta do a whole interior with like gauges and build a dashboard. We gotta do like aluminum paneling inside, figure out mounts for the old NASCAR seats, and you name it. We still gotta put the whole rear end together also with like the rear end cooler and all that stuff. We got sway bar stuff to do up front and in the rear. So stay tuned, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.